All right, we are back for part two of the podcast here with JP. Last we left off on, we were talking about your mom and her um, young adulthood life, studying, going to school, living in Sacramento, going back to Calexico. So we covered all your grandparents, your parents, or not your parents, your grandparents and your grandparents. Sorry. So now I'd like to cover a little bit about your parents, a little bit about your mom, see where you come in the picture, and and a little bit of that backstory.
Sounds good. So we talked about my mom, about how she like went to school and all that stuff, came back, how I got introduced into the picture, which I'm gonna do my best to like puzzle together this puzzle. It's like I came in when my mom was 21 in 1997. I got dates now. I got dates for this one. So it's 1997. I was born. She was 21. So for me, my mother Susanna and my dad's name is Sergio. They were like high school boyfriends, like senior year boyfriend and girlfriend. From what my mom's told me is they were boyfriend and girlfriend and they broke up like after high school or like shortly after high school. And they were like on and off. Typical high school, college in between. But from my dad's side, he stayed in the same town as my mom. And one of those nights they linked up. I came out, but my father, my biological father, joined the army, and he was like, "Okay, deuces, I'm going to basic training, whatever." Left. As soon as he came back, my mom hit him with, "Hey, I'm pregnant. You're gonna be a dad." So I don't want to say, "Oops, baby," but it was not in the best situation. So my father was like, "Hey, you know what? Let's get married. That way you have benefits and you can have get proper treatment for the kid. And if the typical like, hey, let's get married, I get free money, get out of the barracks." So that helped him out. But that's when I moved. So that's when my mom moved to Texas to go with him to Fort Hood outside of Killeen, Texas. And there my dad was in infantry, a lot of training and whatever. And I was born in Texas, Killeen, Texas, Fort Hood. Shortly after, I want to say, not even maybe a year-ish or so. I do remember the small town that we lived in. All I remember was apartments and like the apartments were like half a U, and then laundromat in the middle, and then open fields. Anywhere you looked, open fields because we were in Texas. And according to my mom, there was nothing around. It was just apartments, and then like a mile down was a Jack in the Box inside of the base. That was like a Jack in the Box and like a Quick Eats or something like that, like a 7-Eleven, and that was it. So I guess my memory is not that far off. So they divorced each other maybe when I was like 2, 1. They divorced each other, and my mom, I'll say again, she was a Mexican citizen. My father was a Mexican citizen as well, but had a visa. I don't know how, but there was like there was a war going on. I don't know if it's like Iraqi
Desert
I don't know. I
Storm,
think
maybe?
Desert Storm was like 91, 92. Iraqi Freedom is one of those, or like Battle of Kuwait, whatever. And because of when there's like times of war, the U.S. government opens it up to be like, if you're if you have a visa and you join the military and you do 4 years honorably, you get U.S. citizenship, which I think they do have it still, or it's still very not a thing because there's no war. But that's what he did. He got U.S. citizenship because of it. My mom had a kid with him, and she was in the process, but then they divorced each other. Very fun little story where my mom was like, "Hey, like, what process? Where do I lie? What do I need to do?" And the immigration officers like looked at the papers, like, "You have a kid with him?" She's like, "Yeah, it's got his last name and everything." Okay, and just signed for U.S. citizenship. So like they were divorced, and the guy's like, "Yeah, you started the process with him. You have a kid. I don't think you're trying to like anchor baby or you're trying to like finesse anything.
Yeah.
You have a kid." So she gave him, like they gave her the U.S. citizenship. So that's how my mom became a U.S. citizen, and that's how I came into the picture. Again, I do have an older brother. His name is Robert. He's 6 years older than me. I was born in '97. He's born in '91. So you got all the fun time with Dragon Ball Z and all that fun, all the fun shows. But the story of how he came into fruition, which is it's gonna sound like a novella. That's what I always tell everybody. But it's my mom at 15 got pregnant with a very nice guy who's my stepdad now. It's gonna do a full circle. His name's Sergio Reina, and when they were in the hometown of Mexicali, they were they were like total opposites. Before I say boyfriend and girlfriend, they were polar opposites. Um, my mom was like the neighborhood and like the princess, like the cute cheerleader, gymnast girl of the block. My mom was really into fitness, into gymnast. Like she had a six pack.
Mhm.
Like my mom remembers telling me. Like I remember my mom telling me like guys at the gym would be like, "Oh, look at my six pack, look," because she was a gymnast, and she'd be like, "Oh, look at mine," and she'd pull up her abs and like fucking like
More ripped than
chiseled.
the dudes.
Yeah, because she was a girl, so like much leaner personnel. So my mom was like a gymnast into ping pong, and then my stepdad, they call him Checo. Checo would be he was like the neighborhood daredevil. He had dirt bikes, he had cars. He would be racing up and down. They grew up in this small little town. Like they grew up in Mexicali, but the neighborhood was called Justo Sierra. And in Justo Sierra, it's like there's like a main road. That main road goes to San Felipe, or it goes to down like past downtown Mexicali. And off that little highway is like a small little, maybe like a suburb, and it's like in a little like when I say little ditch, it's like it's more than 100 houses, but it's like in a little cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
There's only three ways in from the main highway, by the back right, and the back left. That's the only way out of that little spot. And my dad would use that as a racetrack. He'd make his own little loops around whatever. And when they were like in high school, whatever, my dad had a dirt bike. He would pop wheelies, go down the whole block. I want to say from the entrance to like the back, it's 3 physical streets long for you to like get through it. So he would pop wheelies. One of these times he was doing a wheelie and he fell. He fell off that dirt bike or that motorcycle, and one of my mom's best friend was like, "Come on, Checo fell. Let's go look at him through my window." So like they snuck into the side of the house and through the living room. They had a window, and you can see him like he hit a car. Like I think he was like dirt biking, like veered off and hit a car and fell. And my mom and her friend are like looking through him through like a window, like trying to be like sneaky. And my mom, this is what she told me was that she just remembers him like getting up, shaking off his like pants because he would wear black pants, shaking off his pants, looking at his elbows, and got back on, ripped it on, and just took off. And my mom's best friend was
Cigar and I mean cigar in the mouth and
yeah,
stuff. Like
aura
total like
farming,
yeah, total
yeah,
aura farming.
yeah. He's like, oh, no big deal, just fell off a bike,
Yeah.
no helmet, no pads, no nothing.
Sheesh.
Yeah, and my mom's best friend was like, I bet you can't be his girlfriend. Hit her with I think it was like, I bet you 20 pesos that you can't be his girlfriend. Something super small,
Yeah,
which to this
but your
day,
dad was like the bad boy, the rocker, kind of
exactly.
like the outlaw, and then your
Yeah.
mom was like in house studying, kind of like
yeah. And then like they would see each other and they'd be like, "Huh," like clean freak, or like like total opposite. Like they would like throw shade because like they were like so opposite, like
yeah, social classes were like
yeah,
different, yeah.
that number one, and then like just the appearance. My mom would be pink with her bow, with like skirts and like the high socks, and my stepdad was black outfit, black shoes, black hoodie, or black
Rugged.
yeah, like slick back hair, and so my mom was like, her best friend was like, I bet you 30 pesos, 20. It was something super, 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 super low, which to this day, my mom says she never got that money. That lady never paid up. And I think they're still kind of friends. So she's like, all right, bet, whatever, go down the line. They end up dating each other, and they're in high school kids. And she comes out pregnant with my older brother, Robert. My mom's 15. My dad was like 16, 17. He was like a year or two older than her. And this is where Francisco and I have like talked about it, where it's like this is like the juicy stuff of the story. But like at the time, my grandparents from my mother's side were like very into money, business, power, politician. They had status, and my stepdad's family was coming from like a single mother, 2 kids. My grandma worked long, like my grandma from my dad's side worked long hours. She was an assistant for the police chief, and so she was never home. She was always out. So my dad was doing all his hoonigan stuff. And when my grandpa found out that my mom was seeing the neighborhood hoodlum, or like the daredevil, he was like, no, not a thing. So he told my mom like, hey, stop. I don't want you to see him. Say goodbye. My mom was like, obviously in love. Like she was gonna have his kid. She's like, no, what are you talking about? And she's like, stop seeing him, or I'll figure it out. That was kind of like where it ended, whatever. In the back line of the back stories of all this, according to the urban legend, was that people in my grandpa's business, my mother's father's business, they'd be like, "Hey, Don Roberto, like, give us some money, we'll handle it. Don't worry about it, we'll handle it." That's all he would say. We'll handle it. Okay, cool. Give the money, whatever. These guys would come and beat up my stepdad. Like, this guy is like 16, 17. They'd get beat up by men, and like blue collar men, like beat him up, whatever. Down, like, it didn't care. My dad, all bruised, would see my mom. One of the stories my mom would tell me was that, like, one of her questions was, what was her first car, right? Like, for my parents, whatever. I don't know about first car, but I know, like, they would go on dates, and my stepdad was a pizza delivery driver, and there was a Volkswagen Beetle, but this Beetle did not have a passenger seat because you would put the pizzas there. If you've ever been in a Beetle, it's got a flat flooring, so you would put pizzas, whatever. So my mom would sneak out of the house to go see my stepdad, but my dad was kind of working. He had that mindset, like, I'm gonna have a kid and whatever. So yeah, he got a job, and it was pizza delivery. So like my mom would sneak out, go deliver pizzas, and my dad was really good with cars, which will help out on mechanic world down the line. But he would see, like, because like the beginning of the story, I said, like, the way to get into the neighborhood was one little road, right, from the main highway. My dad could see the entrance because it was like the entrance road was where they lived down the street. He would see the headlights of my grandpa's car. Like, hey, your dad's coming. So then my mom would run back home, go into the window, whatever, and go back in the house. And then my dad would just go, because my mom and my stepdad grew up in the same block, just opposite corners. Like, same front, but like my stepdad in the beginning part of the street, my mom at the corner, last house. So they would just meet in the middle. And my stepdad would see the headlights. Hey, your dad's coming. They would run opposite directions and hide away, And they kept doing this to my dad, like, trying to push him away. My grandpa would, kept doing his thing to the point where he got tired of it. And the guy's like, one of the workers was like, hey, I'll take care of it forever. Give me some money, whatever. And the point was to kill him. But because of my grandma being in the police force, this guy went to her and be like, hey, just so you know, like, I've been paid to, like, end your son's life. Get him out of the city tonight. Like, get him out of here. And that's where my grandma hit up her sister, mi tia Cuca. I call her tia Cuca. She lived in Reno. She's like, hey, like, this is what's going on. I need my son out. She's like, okay, don't worry about it. Send him my way. So my stepdad got sent to Reno, Nevada, worlds away, at like 17, 18, whatever. Did not know anything about his son. Like, my mom had the kid. They named him Robert Garcia.
So he left while she was pregnant?
Yes. And he never found out, like, kid was born, what name. Because my mom wanted to give him, I believe, wanted to name him Fernando, which is my stepdad's middle name. And he wanted him to have his name and last name. But my grandpa was there. My grandpa's the one that signed for, like, not the father, but, like, signed
for, like, the adult in the room or whatever, like,
yeah, something like that,
parent and guardian.
Exactly. And so that's where my brother got Roberto Garcia
from the grandpa.
Yes. And so time passes by. According to the story, because my mom's very open about it. If you meet her, stop her anytime, she'll tell you the story. My dad's very more closed about it because I guess he got the bad end of the stick, literally. And so my mom was always like, from when my brother was born till, I want to say, maybe 7 years, no, maybe like 10 years ish, no sign of him. That number is kind of rough, but like many years, no sign of him. On my dad's side, on my dad's story, he says that he wrote my mom a letter every day as soon as he left, and he remembers, like, writing what he was doing, writing her address down and everything. He said he easily wrote it for multiple months and even a year, and my mom never got a letter. Now, my mom confronted my grandma way back then about this, and my grandma was like, no, I don't remember anything, because my mom never got a letter. But according to my dad, he's like, no, I wrote you letters every day. Like, I worked at McDonald's. that his aunt got him a job
At Reno, in Reno.
in Reno at a McDonald's. I think it was a McDonald's or a Taco Bell. I forget what it was, but it was open early in the morning. So I would say McDonald's because my aunt would come, or my dad's aunt would come in. She'd be like, "Hey, I got you the job. Give me coffee." You know, my aunt's very, very loud, very, very vibrant. You know, she's a free spirit. You know,
hmm
great aunt. And she'd be like, "Hey, I got you the job. Give me a coffee. Give me coffee." You know, so like my dad, that was one of his jobs that he hated, but he was like, "Hey, it puts money on my pocket. I can send letters." And down the line, um, my brother came out since it was a hidden pregnancy for many months. My mom didn't eat the vitamin. She didn't. Not, I don't want to say eat vitamins, but she didn't have the right
Source of nutrients.
nutrients for my brother, right? So like, there's a picture that we found when we were moving houses from my grandparents, and it was a picture of my mom. And she's like, right there, I was 6 months pregnant, and you see my mom. She's like thin, like she was wearing a loose dress on purpose because she had a little baby bump. She's like, no one could tell, and she was still hidden. So it's like 6 or 7 months, no one knew about the kid, right? So even to this day, my brother gets like blood noses out of nowhere. And my brother, little inside joke was like, if only mom ate her vegetables or her vitamins, I would be a
Yeah.
world track star. My brother was really good at soccer,
Yeah.
but he got a like broken knee, broken like meniscus. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, if only mom had eaten her vegetables or her vitamins,
During my pregnancy.
yeah, I'd be a healthy kid. Little inside jokes. But so yeah, so my mom was like, from my mom of the story, it was he left. They plotted a story against my mom saying, "Oh, he left you. He never loved you. He always wanted a way out. He left you." It was always like brokenhearted. So my mom was very brokenhearted for many years. And then on my dad's side of the story, it was like, no, like I was beaten, like I was forced away.
Mhm.
I was gonna be there from day one, and I never got that luxury. My grandparents never admit to it. All they said was like, "Oh, he said he'd take care of it." We don't know what that meant. We didn't know what that meant. That's their story to this day. And but with time, they kind of linked up and everything, but they never really admitted to it, but they never said no. You know what I mean? According to my dad, my grandpa said sorry because my dad's always been there to help him. And one of the sons, my grandpa was like, "I'm sorry for everything I did to you." And my dad was like, "Whatever, man. It's in the past now. Tough man." But with that, it's very different. And same with my brother. When my brother was born, he never heard anything nice about his father. It was always, "Oh, your dad left you." So like my aunts and uncles would be like, "Oh, your father left you. Oh, your dad left you." And it was always very negative. So I remember for a long time, my brother had hatred towards my stepfather. And I was young. I didn't understand it. My 6 years apart is quite a bit.
Mhm.
So he always had hatred. He never wanted to call him dad. He never called him. I think he just called him he had I think he just called him by his last name.
Maybe the grandparents, your grandparents influenced or kind of told them like, "Oh, your dad left you."
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. My brother, he's told us yeah, I remember my aunts telling me like, "Oh, he never loved you. He never loved your mom. It just happened and he just left." And then when I say that, my brother had like a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of health issues, but when my brother would break an arm, whatever, my aunts would reach out to my stepfather and be like, "Oh, your son broke his arm. He needs money, or he needs money for medical." Because my brother, when he was born, he got to see the money side of the family on my mom's side, but then it went away. So once that money was gone,
They would contact.
they would contact
Yeah.
him and be like, "Hey, your son needs this. Hey, your son needs that."
And they would do that when they knew that your mom didn't know he was
Yeah.
ran out.
Yeah, so at that point, so when I came around the picture, my brother was already 6 years old, so he's a little older, and obviously they're not gonna tell my mom like, "Oh, we're reaching out to him," but my mom was trying to live her life, moving on, met my dad, trying to forget, and lived her life and all this stuff. But my aunts would reach out, or my grandparents would reach out to him, be like, "Hey, your son he's going to surgery, he needs this," and my dad would never second guess. He'd be like, "Okay, here, boom, okay, here." And there was even times where my father said "Yeah, there was a picture. I think we linked it together. It was a picture of my brother in a little Jeep, those little power vehicles." My dad's like, "I bought that for you," and my brother's like, "Well, I got it from my aunt." He's like, "Yeah, I sent it. She just switched the names. She said that my aunt got it for him."
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like a whole scheme.
Yeah.
But my dad always tried to be part of his life. Um, a little fun story was there was I want to say like an older cousin. My mom had an older cousin. This lady, super nice. I forget her name. I wish I feel bad for not knowing her name, but she was like a bit more punk rock, like
Mm-hmm.
during that era. And she would sneak, she would steal pictures of my brother as a baby from the house. She would steal the whole frame, take it, and then go and give it to him,
To
to my dad, my
yeah.
stepdad. And then there was times where she would go visit, and my brother was a little kid, like 2, 3 years old, and my grandparents would leave the house, or my mom would go to work or something. It was just her, like it was my mom's cousin and
Your
like
brother.
and my brother or like something. She would sneak my brother out and go let my dad see him, my stepdad see him. So like my stepdad would see his son very very shortly, but he was like I want to say even younger than 2 years old. He was
Mm-hmm.
like cradled. So that's how my father or my stepdad got to see my brother, and same stolen pictures and all that stuff. That's the only way he would see his son. And with time, I came into the picture. There's a story that my mom said she saw because again they lived at the same street down the line because I was born at this time. She saw my dad come out of a car, and she was at her house looking down the street, and she saw, oh, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of the car, and she's like, oh, he's gonna go to the passenger side. Oh, he opened the door for somebody, and a lady came out, and then he goes to the back seat, pulls out a baby. He's like, oh, he's got a family. He did forget about me. Again, trauma, you know. And they're still not talking. I was born and like still no no contact.
Mm-hmm.
Down the line, I think I wrote down the I don't think I wrote down the date, but I talked to my mom about this, and she told me that she was on her way back from a concert. I was around. This is when we were living in like Sacramento, when she would come down for like a
For the
weekend,
summer.
for like the summer. Because I remember my mom, she never got to have a what's it called a child like a the reckless hot girl summer. She never
Yeah.
got to go party,
Like
whatever,
just teenage life.
teenage life, or going out as a college frat or like college friends and stuff like that. And she said she went to a concert, and on the way back, she walked by his house. Again, for you to go into her house, you had to pass his house
Because she was at the end of
at the end
the
of the
street.
street. So like literally, when you walk into that neighborhood, it's like one long street. It's past her houses. So she was walking by his house. He was working on a car, and she was a little tipsy. And that's where she was like she made a little scuff, like whatever. And he was like working on his car. He's like he like peeked out like, oh, it's you. I'm like, how you doing? He's like, now you care. My mom hit him with a little quick remark, and my dad's like, okay, I see you're a little drunk, and so I'm gonna, I'm just gonna give you some space. Yeah, I think they like talked for a little bit, and she was visibly upset. Whatever. He's like, hey, I'm just gonna walk you home. Make sure you got home safe. Give me a call in the morning. So my mom wakes up, whatever, sees on the counter. She's like, oh, what the heck? It's his number. It isn't writing, whatever. Like it's his name, and she's like optimistic in a way. I think she waits like a couple days, whatever. Gives him a call. They're like, hey, like what happened that night? And she's like, oh, you came by, you seem upset, whatever. Can I invite you out for coffee? Or can I invite you out to eat and we can talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
She was like optimistic. She's like, yeah, sure. I guess it's good to say like a little remark is like in between that time, I'd like to really give credit to my stepdad because not only was he like beaten up, and forced away, but like he had a crazy life. Like he was a firefighter, he was a cop. Now he's like a mechanic and a handyman. But like he did the firefighter and a cop in between like a 7 year span before he like met my mom again. And he lived his life in a way, I guess in a reckless way, like being a cop and a firefighter.
So he came. So after being in Reno for
Hmm.
quite some years, then he came back to
Yes.
Calexico
Yeah, so I think it goes. He was in Reno.
or Mexicali.
Yeah, in Mexicali. So I think he was. They were living in Reno, and with time they came to Oceanside, and in Oceanside, my aunt he was living with bought a property, and my aunt, well, I call her aunt. She's my dad's aunt, so she's my great aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Is married to a very smart guy named Michael. Their last name is Thielens. So my great aunt is Maria Thielens, and my uncle is Michael Thielens, and they had 3 boys, Jason, Wesley, and Travis. who are the same age as my dad, like they're a younger cousin. They grew up together, and my uncle never went to school, or my great uncle, sorry, never went to school, but he learned how to design houses, and he built houses on his own. So he built the house that to this day is still there.
Who did?
My great uncle,
Michael.
Michael, my great uncle Michael. I call him uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason I call him uncle and my aunt is because when my parents got back together, and they were like dating, like for real, they moved in together, and my great uncle, built a property next to his house, and that's where we lived,
Mm.
and
In Oceanside.
in Oceanside, and that's how I got here, right? So once he came back, he came back to Mexicali, kind of met another lady. My stepdad met another lady, had a daughter. My stepsister Fernanda. My mom saw that, right, from
That's the baby that
that's
she
the baby
saw.
came out. She's
Yeah.
like, oh, you got another life, whatever. I was reading the picture. Time passes, whatever. That relationship between my stepdad and that lady don't work out. They just had the kid. They never married. They were never together, and so it was just like, okay, cool, bye. So when they bump into each other after that long night and they go to dinner, they're like, hey, I'm single. You're single. What's up? They kind of start talking to each other. They start seeing each other, and
They put pieces together.
yeah,
And they start
so
realizing that they were kind of driven away from each other on purpose. Forcefully, yeah.
And so that's where my mom started seeing a lot of things. Like he's like, no, it didn't happen that way. It happened this way. Well, that happened because of this. And so that's where my mom started opening her eyes. Like, oh, my parents aren't really good people. Now, I don't want to say like they're evil, but like not everything they've done is the way they've portrayed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where my stepdad kind of showed her like, hey, like I want to build something with you. And I think I was like 6, 7. No, I was like 6. And we went to a party, like a family party of his side, my stepdad. And I remember him putting we were like it was like a ranch, so like it's Mexicali, and then the outskirts it's like small little towns, and it's called Cuernavaca, no, Bataques.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a small little ranching town. My stepdad's uncle owned that house. He was a farmer, and he owned that house, and it was just like big land. I remember they even had a cow one time. Like he had cows, but like he had a cow in the property,
Mm-hmm.
just one cow, just chilling. I'm just like, all right, whatever.
Pet.
Yeah, for real. And it was just there chilling. And I remember they were like, it was like late at night in Mexicali. It gets really hot in summer, and in winter it gets really cold. So they had a little bonfire. And I remember my stepdad carrying me, putting me on his lap, and asking me like, how would you like me to be your dad? Like, how would you like me to be your stepdad? Like, he was a little drunk. He was a
Mm-hmm.
little, he was a little cocky. And
But you remember that?
I will always remember that. I remember my younger me being like kind of shy and be like, how do you answer a question like that? I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Like, how can I say no? Like, what if like it matters? So like they were dating. After a while, they obviously made it official. My mom told her parents like, hey, I'm an adult. I know what I'm doing. Thank you for the long time of advice, for whatever. I'm gonna date him. Obviously, they were like, hey, think about it. Think about the past. They try to bring it up. For many, many years, my brother had hatred towards him, and my aunt and uncles, or my aunt, would say things to him like, "Oh, he only wants you for papers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's only using you again." Oh,
Because she had citizenship from your biological dad,
yes,
and she was working in El Centro
Yep.
around that time.
she was already she wasn't working. She was working. She wasn't working as a nurse. She was working at a factory that did the wire harness for tanks.
Hmm.
So in that town, there's not really many high level jobs. It's either you work at a farm to this day, or you work like solar panels now,
Or factory.
or factories. A lot of factories, a lot of land. So my mom was working at a factory doing wire harnesses.
And this is why she was going to school for nursing.
She was before that. So like
Oh.
my mom was just kind of like trying to put her life together. I mean, when I came around, I was like, she was 21, 23, 24. And down the line, she didn't really have a career. She was just kind of like living her life. When my stepdad came around, sorry, you're right. She did have the nursing job. She did that thing, came back. When she had her degree, she was working. Yes, they linked up. You're 100% right.
Mhm.
Dang, I just blanked on that one. So she did have that job, and so that my stepdad was like, hey, like, let's build something. Let's move out of here. And my stepdad did not have like I said, he had like a very young education because like he didn't graduate high school. He was just a handyman, whatever. So my mom and him move up to Oceanside.
With
They
his aunt.
Yes, with his aunt.
Mm.
So like she still lives there to this day, and it's her house. And then like 25 feet over, it's another smaller 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom house. 1 bedroom, 2 bath, and a tiny garage, but you can't get a car there. It's like on the hill. So like that's where I went. Like that's where I remember. Like I want to say like that's where I can get consciousness. Like okay, I live a
You were
life.
like what, 5, 6 years old?
I was in middle. I was in elementary school.
Okay.
So I remember my mom taking me out of school to go to San Francisco, coming back, and I remember going to school for like maybe fourth grade, fourth, fifth grade, and then my mom being like, "Hey, like we're leaving to Oceanside," and I will always remember we're doing this drive. If you know San Diego, when you're coming into El Cajon from the 8,
Yep.
I remember that turn before you get to like you pass the exit Greenfield, and it's like a long turn, and then you're in El Cajon, and then it's like you see like the city. There's like a Starbucks, there's a Wiener Schnitzel. I don't know why I always so vividly, but it's like I remember us driving there. I'm like, where are we going? And I just remember seeing how like when you leave Calexico, it's like deserty. You go into the mountains, it's like mountain, but rock, like huge boulder rocks. Then you get to like San Diego, and it's like green, vivid, like nice trees. Like I'm like, where are we going? And then we ended up in Oceanside. And I was like, okay, this is nice. And then mom was like, this is our new house. I'm like, oh, okay. I remember having to go to back to school shopping, Walmart, right off the 78 off Jefferson exit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Walmart there. I remember having to go there for back to school shopping. And then I started going to school at Palmquest Elementary, only fifth grade, and then going to Lincoln across the street. And then that's where like, okay, this is my life. My parents married each other in that parking lot outside of the house. Like my stepdad proposed to her, and my aunt had she had like the right to marry people. Like
Oh yeah, what's it called?
not a notary, but
No, it's like, I know what you're talking
you know
about.
what I mean. Like
Yeah.
you can marry
And I
people on
don't
the
even want to
spot.
butcher the word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something, a certificate,
Yeah.
And so she married them
In the parking lot.
in the parking lot of where we lived, because it was like a 6 parking lot garage. It was like a 6 parking lot opening.
And
There's
did
like
your brother move with you guys too?
no, because he had a hatred towards my stepdad.
Mm.
To like not to this day, he loves him now, but like back then, my brother, I was in 5th grade. My brother was starting high school. No, he was in high school for sure, and
So he was old enough.
yeah, he was old enough, and he was like very expressive about that. So he stayed with my grandma in Calexico. So my brother grew up in Calexico all the way to high school, and I grew up in Oceanside in Escondido towards like the back half. But my brother was very negative against it. Did not. He was like, "I'm never calling him dad." And my mom's like, "I'm not asking you to." I'm like, just
Mhm.
listen to him. And my dad wasn't like, "Hey, this like he." I think he tried to explain it maybe once, but like, "Hey, like he sees his point. I can't force him not to see that point." So like, gave him the right to hate me, whatever. And with time, my brother slowly started like, okay, he's not that bad. Okay,
Knowing him.
getting to know him, like, okay, he actually cares about my mom. He's not using my mom like they always said. And now my brother like calls him dad, um, hits him up for any like my brother lives in San Diego as well. He lives in like more El Cajon, and like we'll hang out. We'll go to my parents' house. We'll cook. We'll do cookouts, whatever. Full 180, and like now we kind of see that our grandparents and our aunts and uncles aren't really the nicest people.
Mm-hmm.
More self interest. So we're like, okay, so like my brother and I, um, very we're close, but not too close. We didn't grow up together.
Right.
So like
And then there's that age gap.
there's an age gap, 100%, and then also like he grew up separate from me. So love my brother with all my heart, but it's a little gap. You know what I mean? Like I know that like there's people that like, hey, my brother's my world. Like,
Right.
he was there, but with my brother, he lived in Calexico. I lived over here. With time, my parents, got married. My mom made my stepdad a U.S. citizen. That's where my parents or my aunts, my mother's parents, sorry, my mother's siblings were like, he's only using you for citizenship. My dad got citizenship, stayed with her. They're still together to this day. I think they're going for 21 years of marriage,
Okay.
or maybe even more. Might be 25, 21. It's in there. It's more than 20. and they're still together, happily strong. And I just remember how they've kind of like I remember going from a 1 bedroom house. I remember sleeping like in a hallway up to their room to like now having their own home in Escondido and building up. And they've always like built up from each other. And not one time did they like go backwards, no infidelity, no, like they've always built up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like where I've seen that. And I've been very fortunate to like build from that. Be like, okay, with the right partner, you can do anything. I remember my mom always told me, like, once I buy a house, I'm gonna cry. Like the day I own a house is like I've made it in life,
Mm-hmm.
because like it's just something that was not really like obtainable for them,
Right.
But now they own their home. They might have like 2 more properties in Mexico. They're doing good,
Yeah.
but with the rough beginning, it's kind of done a full turn, and that's where I ended up in Oceanside, Escondido, and now still here in
And
Vista.
during this time when you were in Oceanside, when you guys made the move, your mom was working in hospitals or clinics?
So yeah,
She was already in the medical field, right?
great question. So my mom was already in the medical field, and she worked in Escondido, right off El Norte Parkway. You know where the Dairy Queen's at?
Yeah.
Yeah, right behind it. There's a medical facility.
Yeah.
Back then, it was I forget the name of it, but the doctor was Dr. Minkoff. Great guy, super nice guy. So my mom would drive. She had a '92 Camry. It's like a tiny 4-door box. Literally looks like a Hot Wheel,
Yeah.
beige. She would drive that over here, and that's what that was like her first official, like, hey, like I'm living on my own. And like again, shout out to my mom, like one income, because my dad wasn't a U.S. citizen, so he was like just at home, just kind of like looking after me.
Or taking odd jobs.
Yeah, more like mainly helping my uncle with his projects, whatever. But it wasn't like it was mainly like so. What my dad would do would he would buy used cars in like up north and take them down to Mexico and resell them for some money, or he'd get a used bike or a used car, bring it in, and like repair it, do some fixes, and then take it down south and sell it. So he was trying to get some. It was like a little side hustle to make some money. But my mom was the bread maker, not like crazy, but like official job. Once he was able to like get his work permit and his residency, he started working for um a place called Villosa Racing. That's where like the mechanic world kind of popped off. He was already a mechanic, but that's where he really did the off road racing stuff. So like we can get into that in a bit. But like again, my mom hustled like for many years of like the single income, and I don't know how she did it, but she built up like
Yeah.
she saw a future with my stepdad, and like I said, they're together to this day. But they're strong and like they're doing their thing. But it was hard back then. I remember when my dad was like barely starting to work, we would take him lunch on the weekends 'cause he would work weekends too, and we would take like sandwiches. We would sit in the back of the truck and eat. And my mom was eating a sandwich, I was eating a sandwich, my dad was eating a sandwich, and his hands were like a little dirty from like mechanic work or something, and we're just there vibing. I was young. I was like middle school, high school, whatever. And I will never forget how like every weekend we would go down to Mexicali. Cause like, or my dad had like my parents had a party, family, whatever. So every weekend we would drive 2 hours southeast, back to Mexicali, back to Calexico, back and forth. So my weekends as a younger guy, it was like Friday after school, go home. My mom would come off work at 5, pick me up, go to my dad. We'd go down south weekend, and come back. So that was like all my weekends. Down the line, once my dad got like his citizenship and all, like his residency and all that stuff, he started working for their off road team. That became our weekends.
And then I think you told me the story how that came about too, right? Like,
Yeah,
it was
so
pretty
yeah,
out of the blue, wasn't it?
it was out of the blue. So my dad in the town of Mexicali, I'm gonna do a little quick background, is where the Baja 1000 started. If you don't think about the Baja 1000, it's the longest continuous off-road race. The 1000 stands for 1,000 miles, and it started in Mexicali back almost 50 years ago, maybe even more, and that's where it started. So like that little town, it's a desert town. So like every other weekend, people get together, have a race once a month, twice a month, and they off-road race. And my dad was into that. So my dad does not
And he's
come.
been into it for his like whole life, right?
Oh yeah, like I think it was like the 90s is when he was able to like put together a little race car that he, from spare parts. And like he had no team. Like he would literally race, hop out the car, refuel his car, like throw the jug back in the back of the truck, and then take off.
Hmm.
It was just him, Like there's only like one or two times he was able to do it. Like he's always been a fan, and then he's also obviously part of it now. But it that's where his like love for mechanic work came. When we came here, he like saw like they announced. I don't know how he got word of mouth like, hey, this team, because the owners of that race team are from that town, Mexicali.
Hmm.
But like this family, shout out to them, but those of the family, amazing. They're very wealthy, but they live in the United States. So a lot of mechanics from Mexicali have worked for them or helped them out in Baja. And so like he got a word about like, hey, they're in San Diego. You should apply for a job. They're looking for people. So my dad sends his resume. I think back then was fax.
Hmm.
I would assume, sends him the resume, maybe email. Doesn't hear anything back. My dad's working dead end jobs. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then he's like, you know what? My mom's very positive. My mom's like the most positive person you will ever meet. And she was like, maybe go. Maybe we should go over there and see what's going
Show up
on.
in person.
Yeah, show up in person and like ask about it. So my dad does that. The race shop is in Miramar, right next to the Miramar Air Station. And he shows up and goes to the front desk and he's like, hey, I sent in my resume. And in Vendosa Racing, it's half racing, half corporate. So like the front office is very corporate. And they're like, we don't know anything about that. Go outside, go around back. There's a
The front office houses like not legit business, but like their bread and butter business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, which is car transportation.
Yeah.
So, like they have car haulers. They have
Hmm.
like over 500 car haulers in Mexico and the United States, Brazil, all the way down. So, like that's their bread, the money maker, right?
Hmm.
The racing is like their hobby for fun. So, like the ladies in the front, she's like, "Hey, I don't really know. Go around back, look for Hobby, who was a team manager to this day, is still the team manager." And my dad, hey, looking for Hobby. I think they were like eating lunch or like they were taking a quick little break, and like, hey, I sent in my resume. And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah. You see that car over there? It was like a pre-runner, which is it's a race car, but not fully built out to go 100 miles an hour or like go crazy. It's more like for reconnaissance to go slowly through the desert, map out the track. It's like, hey, it has a bad alternator. I need you to get it out." My dad's like, "Alternator, easy day. Like take off the pulley, take off the belt, easy, take it out, 30 minutes." He's like, "Okay, cool, have fun." With time, Javi, because I ended up working at that shop too, and he was my boss at one point. I was like, I hated working on that car because the way the engine and the tube chassis was set up, it was the hardest alternator to get out. Like you would cut your like hands at least 100 times because the way it's placed, right? So my dad's there working, and if anytime you see my dad working outside, he sweats profusely.
Hmm.
Like doesn't matter the weather. Like my dad will pack 3 t-shirts if he knows he's gonna work outside, like not excruciating hard work. If he's just gonna work outside, he brings spare t-shirts because he knows he's gonna like get sweaty, so he just changes the shirts. My dad's very clean like that too. So my dad's are working. They give him the tools and everything. My dad's going crazy, like I can't get this out, can't get this out. It's like, but my dad's like, how am I gonna fail in front of
Right.
them? So my dad's just trying. I think he takes like 3 hours, and Javi's like, that's normal. Like it's like, by the time Javi was like, yeah, I knew you were gonna take like 4 or 5 hours. I was there. We were in there all night because like in the off road, you have like a calm time where there's like nothing to do, and then races coming up, and then you start working 12-hour shifts.
Hmm.
So Javi's like, we were here all day, so we were here to watch you struggle. So he gets it out, and Javi's like, okay, you want a job? Come back tomorrow. All right, cool. And that's how it started. So like my dad started working there. I think my dad's been there for 17 years, and to this day, that's his daily job. Go to the for this race team and just do its thing. And from there is where I got into off road racing. And I remember our first big race was like the Baja 500 in 2020, no, 29, no, 2009. It was like, this goes way back for me. And also,
And this is the first race that you've been to,
yeah,
but
so,
they had been racing for many years before
oh,
that.
they've been racing for more than 45 years. Like the dad of like the team, the owner, he started off back when like Volkswagen Beetles were like the biggest class,
Hmm.
and he's like built up. When my dad got to the shop, like they had a whole race shop. 14-person staff, multiple race cars for the off-road for one event. Like they had like maybe 3 race cars, a fleet of like 6 F350s to support the race, and like we can get into like the nitty-gritty of like what it takes to be a pro team in the off-road, but like that team is a staple in the off-road. Like
Mhm.
anytime if you ask an off-road person, like, hey, have you heard of Vildoso Racing? They're like, oh yeah, Tavo and Gus,
Mhm.
the team owners. Oh yeah, Trophy Truck 21, Trophy Truck 4. Like that team for the Mexican culture has done a lot because not only was it the first full Mexican team to win a Baja 1000 in Mexico, obviously, but it won it the year of the Centenario, which is the
Yeah.
Mexican.
100th year,
It was a 200th year
200.
of Mexico or something like that, and they won it that year. So like, it was 2010. I will never forget. That was like my second Baja 1000. And if you know Baja, it's like Ensenada's up here, La Paz is like the bottom of that little leg. That's the race course, point A to point B, no loop, and it was 1,000 miles. And I was like, 2010. What am I? I don't know. I'm young,
Mhm.
and we're going
2010. You must have been like 9 or 10 years old.
exactly.
Yeah.
What am I doing in the back of an F350 with a bunch of grown adults
Yeah.
chasing a race car? And like when you're in the back of a chase truck, you're not just like driving behind it. Like you're stopping at pit points, you're stopping at visuals, make sure the car is good to make sure it gets there. 2010, they won the Baja 1000. Not only won it, but broke a bunch of records. So me being 9 or 10 years old, like blows my mind. Like
Yeah.
we won the race. We're in this place where I've never been, and it's the hardest race in the world. Red Bull sponsored. We got back. There was a parade for us in Mexicali. Like I remember they shut down the the main highway.
Yeah. It
And
was a movie.
it was great. Like I was young, and all I see is a plane flying with the race numbers. I remember I have them at the house, where it's like I have the newspapers, like Villosa Racing wins the Baja 1000. You know, Tavo. And there's pictures with my dad because my dad was fortunate to get in the race car. So for Gus, who was the team owner, my dad was his co-driver for I think 400 miles, and then Tavo, which is Gus's son, drove the other 600 by himself. Him and his co-driver Javi, the team manager. So Tavo and Javi started, hopped out. My dad and Gus, or Gus and my dad, hopped in, and then did 300 miles, hopped out, and then Tavo and Javi took off, finished the race, and they were able to beat the fastest average speed, like the speed average, which is 55 miles an hour. Sounds fast, but for the off road, it's insane because like you're going slow for a lot of it. You're traveling.
I thought they go fast, like over 100, 200.
That's what they show you. Like those are the cool clips, but like
Yeah, that's just the straightaways.
yeah, the straightaways or like the straightaway with like the big whoops of
Mhm.
San Felipe, Las Torres. But like there's parts where like the cars going 5 miles an hour, going over rocks, not rock crawling, but like they're going over these areas where like the river carved out,
Mhm.
and or they're doing turns in between the desert. Like you have to make 1,000 miles in a land that's not that big. So like they do a lot of curve, a lot of turns, and they go through like mountain like cliffs.
Mhm.
So it's like they're going kind of slow. Now there's a lot of areas where they go fast. They hype it up, but back then it was like even I think to this day that record still stands from point A to point B in the loop on 1000. I think the fastest was 60. Is like that? There's like a new average which was broken like 2 years ago, but that's kind of like what took over our world was like every 3 months there's a Baja 1000 happens once in November, but there's the buildup is a Baja 250, the 500, then the 1000. But now they introduced the Baja 400, which is I think 6 years old. So since 2009 till like 2020, that was my life. Go down the Baja, race, come back, and it's funny because that's the town where my wife's from. But I never like that town where she's from, Ensenada. Not one time did we go to vacation.
Mhm.
We would go to that town for racing. So like it's very funny when I started dating my wife, and she moved back to Ensenada, and I would go visit her. And I'm like, what is there to do? Like all I know is race
Yeah,
start
yeah.
line.
All I know is like November.
Yeah, November. It's cold. It's really cold because it's near the ocean, and it's like it's a cove, and it's really cold. And I know how to leave the town, where the start line is, and where the tacos are near the start line, because that's also the finish
Yeah.
line. So it's like, what is there to do? So by me dating her, I guess there's an ocean there. There's a movie theater. There's a bowling alley. Really good tacos everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just like that was
Really
very
good seafood.
yeah, seafood too.
The wine country.
That too, yeah. So like all that stuff never knew till I started dating my wife, who was my girlfriend back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy story how he got into it, and then your dad was fortunate, like you said, to get in the behind the wheel in the truck
Yes.
and experience that firsthand.
Indeed. So
And how did you get into working with them?
so I was obviously a freelance volunteer, child labor
Mhm.
before, because like there was times where like my dad would be working on the weekend and he would drag me with, not drag me, but like it was summer break or there's nothing to do and he'd take me with him. And from a very young age I remember going to the shop in Miramar and building tires or washing body panels out of fiberglass,
Mhm.
doing just like the easy things, while like the real mechanics were like pulling out an engine, rewiring harnesses, redoing, brake lines, or calibrating the toe and camber of the car before a race. So like I was always kind of like helping out as much as I could. Once I got older, I remember towards the end of like high school, my mom was like, "You got two options when you graduate high school: you get a job, you pay rent; you go to school, you don't pay rent. It's up to you.
Mhm.
If you want to live in my house, these are my rules." So when I graduated high school, I was like, I don't really know what I want. I knew I didn't have college fund. I knew that from the rip. I was like, I have to pay for it myself. I wasn't really into college. I didn't like school. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work. So after out of high school, I worked at a restaurant, Mexican restaurant called Hacienda. It was like right off Center City.
Oh, you worked out at Hacienda de Vega?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah.
I
I was
never
a
got to
dish.
go to that location.
Really?
I went to the Carlsbad location.
Yeah,
It was good.
I worked there too. For
And not the Carlsbad location. I didn't go to that one. I went to the Rancho Santa Fe location.
I forget which one, but it was like I went there with that. I
Or
knew that.
Encinitas. I don't know. But it's right border Rancho Santa Fe and Encinitas.
Yeah, there was one. I think it was Carlsbad. I want to say Carlsbad
Yeah,
is the
there
one.
was one there too.
It's like in a weird business plaza.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
They had 3 locations.
hmm but when I was there was only two, and I remember I submitted my application. I'm like, I hope I don't get this, and I ended up getting it. And I was a dishwasher.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
dishwasher, and I think I only lasted like 2 months, maybe a month, because I really wanted to be a busboy. I don't know, like I never saw myself as a dishwasher. I always hated being washing dishes at home. So I was like, how am I gonna do it for 8 hours? So I remember working there a lot of like it. If you don't know Hacienda or ever heard of it, obviously not. But like they had a lot of. It was very kind of high end,
Hmm.
not high end, but like
It was nice
it was
Mexican.
very nice Mexican food. Like the salsas had their individual tray, like little cups. Like it was very bougie in a way.
Hmm.
And all that had to get washed. So like washing, like any time you ordered any plate, it came with like at least 4 to 5 little ceramic plates.
Hmm.
I was like, dude, I hate this. And like certain salsas would stick really hard, or like chocolate fudge, because I think they had like dippable churros, whatever.
Yeah.
And like this place was like small. The building is really old. I think it's still there. I think
No, they
they
tore it
demolished
down.
it for
Yeah.
that restaurant, right?
Yep. No, there's
The apartment complex.
yeah, housing going up there.
Yes. So back then it was already an old building, and the
But it
kitchen.
looked really nice. And it wasn't there like a little koi pond in the middle or something? There
I
wasn't.
never went into the restaurant. I literally walked in, and it was like
You walked into the employee
I
back
walked in,
area.
took a left, and that was the kitchen, and
Yeah.
like that was it. So like I never got to like see the place, only from a distance. And I remember like when I tell you it was pretty bad, it was a picket fence, like a wood picket fence, like what's in your backyard. That's where the waiters would drop, or the busboys would drop off the plates, and they would just have like baskets of water. They would
Mhm.
just throw the plates in there with chlorine and stuff like that. And I would come from the kitchen, pick them up, and take them back in, and wash them, and then put in the machine, right? But like there was times where like the little cups would get like stuck together, and like it was just a mess. I
Mhm.
hated it, dude.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just hated it, and I'd end up drenched, all this stuff. And I remember speaking to the manager like, "Yo, like I got potential. Like let me be a busboy." Like I remember
Yeah.
because like my
I
first
speak English.
yeah, speak English. I know Spanish. I know Mexican food. And I remember my first job as like with a paycheck was I worked at a concession stand at Kit Carson for the softball team, for the
Mhm.
softball youth softball for Escondido. So I worked at concession stands. So people were like, oh, how much is the corn? Like $1.50. Like I memorized the menu, right? I did that for like 2 years. So when I became a dishwasher, I was like, I can remember the menu, like prices, what's on them. Like I got potential, man. Let me show you. Like, and the guy was a I think he was like Muslim, like Middle East, and he's
Mhm.
like, "Sorry, man, like I don't need that. I need a disher. I wash dishes, like
Mhm.
wash, like that's what I need." So he kind of booted me, and I was like, dang. Like a month later, on the weekends, like Friday and Saturday and Sunday, was 2 dishwashers booked because it was like high volume, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the most money. I show up I get out of high school, out of school, and I go to start washing dishes. I'm like, okay, cool. I started vibing with this guy, the other dishwasher. We had a good system. Like, I'd get him, put him in the thing. He'd wash them. I put him in the thing, and I'd organize them away, like put them away. We had a solid system. We'd be done early. If not, you'd be there all day. This guy calls out for like the third weekend in a row. And I was like, dude, that's it. I can't do this by myself. 'Cause when he wasn't there, my shift would be ending like at 10. I'd be going home at 1, like super late. And I'm like, dude, like, that's it. And I told the manager, I'm like, yo, like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this by myself. Like, give me a cook, give me a waiter. So he's like, nah, this is your job. Figure it out. He told me like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I bet.
Bet.
And I just walked out. I think, I don't know if I took a plate of bacon. I forgot what it was because like they had like a plate of bacon, but like I just grabbed it and I walked out.
like,
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck you. And
Yeah.
your...
I remember I walked out, picket fence, and then one of the waiters was like, "Where you going?" I'm like, "I'm out." And the guy's like, he was smoking a cigarette. He's like, "All right, bet."
All right, bet.
He's like, "I fuck with it," And he was like smoking a cigarette, and I was like, "See ya," and I just left, and I just
Yeah,
never.
you're not the first one. You won't be the last.
For real. And like, I think he was a dishwasher too, so he knew the struggle. And I remember the owner called me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I quit. Like I told you, like I can't." He's like, and I forget he was about to like blow off on me. I just hung up on him. I'm like, whatever, dude. It's a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I don't care. And then like told that to my dad. My parents were like, "All right, man, whatever." And I think it was like right before Baja 500. It was like June-ish. And I remember going to the shop and like talking to like the team manager. So like there's a team manager for like the off-road section, and there's like a team manager for the logistical side. I remember talking to like the guy on the logistical side. I'm like, hey, his name is Steve, and I'm like, hey, Steve, like, I've been here. Like, I was volunteering for free. Like, I know the stuff. Like, let me get a job. He's like, you know what? I need to talk to like the owner, Gus, but let's give it a trial. Just come to work. Like, I think I did 3 months no pay, like back to like every day, no pay, no pay, no pay. And he's like, let's see how it goes. Like, all right, whatever. I saw it as a, hey, show me what you got type thing. So I did 3 months no pay. Then out of nowhere, he came up to me. He's like, hey, like, I'll give you this amount weekly, bi-weekly. I was like, all right, cool. I think it was like $350 a week for 5 days, whatever. I was like, all right, cool. That's my foot in the door. I have no bills. I lived with my parents. I had no bills. And so I started doing that. But it was like I would mop the floors. I'd take out the trash. If we had a race, I'd come back and I'd wash the body panels, whatever survived, because they were like very thin and they'd snap off. Or like if tires come back, I'd scrub the tires, take the mud off of them, because like we'd stack them up, and for testing we'd take spare or used tires, and whatever needed to like sandblasting. Like when a car would come back from the race, the parts would come back rusted. So it's all steel. So I'd be in the sandblaster, sanding everything down, scrubbing it, repainting it, giving it back to the guys to put together. It was just like elbow grease job. And then what else needed to be done was like I said, there's like a gap of like race, super high tempo, come back to the race, everybody take a break, take a month off. Not a month off, but like month. It's like a very mellow. You go to work at 8, you're off by 4. You take a break for breakfast, and then you take a lunch break. Very easy. And then race comes again, ramps up. So, in between that low point, the boss, the owner he needed a ride. He is a businessman, so like he needed someone to drive him to TJ, or he needed someone to pick him up from the airport, take him to the airport, or hey, he has a house in other states. Hey, I'm going there for a skiing trip. Take the Escalade with my bags. I'll meet you over there, and I'll fly you back. It's like it was just very random. Like I remember one time it was a 5 work day, and every day I was in a different state. So obviously Monday started in Miramar. Tuesday was we flew the jet because he had a jet. He flew us to Ensenada. From Ensenada, drove to like to some other city, and then from there hopped on a plane, went to Colorado. From Colorado, drove to Vegas. And I remember thinking like, holy crap, it's a different city every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. And there was times where like 1 week would not be the same for the next week. So I did that for like 2 years, and it was like great. Obviously, everything has pros and cons, but it was like, oh my god, like it's a great job, but I'm like, I don't see a future. So that's where I was like, you know what? I think it's either I go to school. This was like about a year and a half. I started going to school, And I was like, okay, I think I want to be an engineer. So I started school to be an engineer and all this stuff. And then I noticed like, hey, the off road thing ain't really working for me. So then um, I switched jobs and I went to
Mm-hmm.
another off road team that was more like engineering base. It was more of a it's called ID design, and these guys would if you gave them your race car, like, yeah, I have this problem, they would engineerily fix what's wrong with it. But that was kind of like how I left the off road.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Is that when you were with were you working with the Miller team too?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
remember, like
Yeah.
I know
Chris
those people.
Miller. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very small world when we linked up that you knew him. And
Mm-hmm.
okay, so after I left ID design, after I left Vildoso, I went to ID design for like a year. Again, very different. So like I went from a racing team where we would go racing out once every 3 months to a place where we did no racing, and it was very not corporate. So like ID design, they made engine components. So like the pulley, engine plate, they did rear differentials.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would make products for the off road,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very engineering based. Like
It
the
was
owners,
manufacturing.
yes, but there's only five of us. The owner, Dave and Ivan, um, and two more workers, and then me. So it was five in total. The machinist and the welder, and then me. Now again, I swept the floors. Whatever they needed help, I would do it. And I would drive. I would go pick up deliveries, go deliver parts, whatever I needed to do. And once, I guess we can even get into that. For um, Chris Miller used to race back in the day for pro trucks, and then he left. So for whatever reason, Dave, the owner of ID Design, hit up Chris Miller, be like, "Hey, I have a race car that they developed." So ID Design developed, I think, like 6 race trophy trucks, but they were really good in like the early 2000s, and then like got phased out because a new class of the new generation named Geyser Bro Company
Mm-hmm.
made a better trophy truck. So like the ID Design trucks kind of like lost reputation, right? If you want to win races, you buy a Geyser. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's a Mason Motorsports truck, and when one of these trucks popped up for sale, the owner of ID Design, Dave, hit up Chris Miller and told him like, "Yo, I have a great deal for you. It's in Long Beach. I need you to meet me there, but you need to bring your checkbook." You know, Chris Miller is a millionaire,
Mm-hmm.
like 100 millionaire. Um, I'm gonna put a pause into that other story for Chris Miller. I don't know if you know this about him, but he made his money in 2013 when he sold his storage company. He owned iStorage,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, Chris Miller owned 52,000 units of storage units of like individual.
Yep.
And when they sold for $735 million,
Sheesh.
and he was a 51% majority owner of iStorage. So when he sold, first paycheck was $300 million stacked. So he took that. Yeah, I got free time. I'm gonna go back into the off road, and that's where Dave knew that this big whale of cash, Chris Miller, was looking for a trophy truck, and that's where he was like, meet me in Long Beach. They go to Long Beach, whatever, and they open up a warehouse. This warehouse belonged. I don't know the name of the guy, but he owned a team called T Force. T Force was the number two guy of the number one. Sorry, it was the number two guy of the number one shareholder of the guy that moves Toyota vehicles around the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything Toyota, this guy is the number two mover for it.
Mm-hmm.
His company. So he named it T Force, Toyota Force. And when a guy like that goes into the off road, he buys 2 trophy trucks, 2 pre-runners, 12 chase trucks. He buys everything. Like like these guys need to spend their money or they get taxed on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they spent hundreds of millions of dollars. No big deal. This guy, I think his wife. Usually, it's the wife that doesn't like the off road. It's too messy. It's too dirty. So they're like the wife's not interested no more. So then he can't go racing no more because the wife doesn't want to be part of it. So then they sell everything. They do a fire sale. Everything's half off. So this guy, the owner of T Force, hit up Dave. He's like, "Hey, I want this gone. I want it for, let's say a number. Let's say $10 million
Mm-hmm.
for everything. Figure it out." So Dave's like, "Hell yeah, I got a paycheck. I know each trophy truck is worth a couple $100,000, like $800,000. I know chase trucks of this. I can double the money and give him 10 mil. Call it a day, right?" So Dave starts doing this, sells this, sells that, sells that. But he knew the race cars were his. So he offered one to Chris, and he's like, "Hey, I will offer you this trophy truck half off, but Dave, at ID Design have to prep it for you for the next 2 races. I was at ID Design at that time. So Miller's like, trophy truck, half off. Why not? So he wrote the checkbook, X amount of money, bought it. He bought that fuel system, like for pit stops, and like bought like a chase truck, bought like a bunch of stuff, all half off. And that's where I got to meet Chris Miller when I was prepping his car for ID Design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Miller saw how good I was. Like, I don't want to say I was good. I was just like, I was very attention to detail. He enjoyed how, like, he just enjoyed the way I carried myself with him. And when I decided to leave ID Design
Or
around,
when his contract was up with those 2 races.
yeah, when this contract was up, Miller's like, okay, I don't have nobody to build my truck anymore. I need to build a team because he really want to get into it. He looked after a team manager, which he got who was Cameron Miller, who was still his team manager to this day, and they hired a young guy named Dave Kashi, who's still there to this day, and they left, and it was just them two. They took a trophy truck, and they worked out of Valley Center, and with time, they're like, okay, he bought more toys, he bought more pre-runners, more trophy trucks. He needed another person. I had left ID Design. It's very funny. Like the timing was perfect. Like I remember I was texting David, who they call Junior. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm about to leave ID Design. Next day, Chris Miller calls me. He's like, hey, I want to make a championship winning team. I want you on it. I've seen how you work. I like it. And I was like, dude, I'm done with off road. Like I was already, I want to say 3-4 years in. I was like, dude, there's no future. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, let me change your mind. At the time, all off-road vehicles were two-wheel drive, as in the rear wheel spin. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
Really?
Yeah. And back in the 90s, they tried to do all-wheel drive, but the metal technology was not there. So like they'd snap an axle, they snap a third member, they snap material, right? And then Chris Miller, he had a lot of money. He put his money for an all-wheel drive Mason, which was the number 3 Mason truck to be made. Now they're like a number 28, 29. Like these trucks are like,
Oh, they don't make many of them.
no, I mean, each car is $1 million,
Yeah.
and it's 4-wheel drive, so it's like they're handmade, and like the wait list is like years out, right? But at the time, Chris was early to the turn. Like he was early to the evolution of all-wheel drive, right? So that's where he convinced me. He's like, hey, I got an all-wheel drive Mason, and I get delivery in April. This was like November. This is like December. He's like, I get it in April. I want you to work with me, and we're gonna make this team better. I want to win races with you guys. I was like, you know what? Cool. He gave me a number. He gave me days or whatever, and I was like, sweet. January 3rd, I started working for him, and that's where we're working with a two-wheel drive ID Design truck, ID 40, and we're doing races. We did the Baja 250. I think we got like 4th. He was like super happy, like ecstatic. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I've never finished in the top 10. Like, you guys are like, we're in the right path, whatever. We're like, all right, cool. We feel great about ourselves, right? We're working hard. April comes along. We get the Mason all-wheel drive. This car is like beautiful. Like, the ID Design car was from 2008, Like, it had thin sheets of aluminum holding it together to protect you from the dirt, all this stuff. We get the Mason, carbon fiber panels, carbon fiber interior, the biggest screen, like all-wheel drive. It has components I've never seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, how does this thing even work? And so, like, me coming from a place where Valdosta Racing wasn't at yet, I was like, okay, I could show my old team what's up, because we're going to be racing in the same category. So there was times where, like, low-key, me and my dad would beef at home because we have a racing. He's like, nah, your driver sucks. I'm like, nah, your driver's going to do that. He's like, yeah, at least we finished. Like, we've been finishing too, Like, we'd be beefing. And I was like, my mom made a rule, like, no race talks at the house,
Yeah.
Well, all right, whatever. And like when we were out in the races, my dad would be like, "Hey, what's your assignments? Oh, I got this." Like, "Oh, what's yours? Oh, I got that." I was like, "Well, I'll be in this area if you need me. I'll be here." Like we'd help each other out, and with what we could, like we're racing against each other, but we can't really be there for each other. Like if he's ahead and gets a flat tire, I maybe would have stopped. But if I got a flat tire or my race car had a flat tire and he's behind me, he's not gonna help me out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there was things like that, but like there was times where like, hey, I need this part down. Like, oh, we don't leave till Friday. He's like, do you mind taking this part down? I'm like, yeah. So we would just help him out. And obviously, when you're in a smaller team, like it was called Cantina Racing. When Cantina Racing was much smaller, having a behemoth like the Dos Racing that has literally half of Mexico backing them, you want that support. You want those contacts. So it was like it helped Chris get better like recognition, and it also helped me not lose my dad as my father because
Mm-hmm.
we're racing against each other. You know, I don't think not one time we outscored them. We were just in the background. We were
Mm-hmm.
like midfield, you know. But it was a fun time, very interesting, and that's how we found out that you knew my boss because of you worked in the same place where
Yeah.
he would go to.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Small
crazy.
world.
I was just like, I forgot how it came up. I think you had posted something, and I was just like,
I
"Oh,
think I
dude, I know him."
no, I think I went to a tennis event at the
Oh,
clubhouse.
you did,
I
yes.
think it was that, and
And you posted that you were there, maybe,
uh-huh,
and I was like, "Dude, what are you doing here?"
yeah, and I was like, I'm here, and that's where I clicked like, oh, you work at the clubhouse,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, or you worked at
yeah.
the clubhouse, and
He was a member there,
he was a
or
member.
he is probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
still.
is. And when I say Miller had a lot of money, he had this is like Rancho Santa Fe. He had two mansions in the same place for that. Like if you have a house in that area, you pay a fee
Yeah,
and you get access to the clubhouse where you can like
private.
private, and then you have free food, right? Like well, quote quote free food, right?
No, you still have to pay for
Oh
everything.
dang,
Yeah, you
never
got to pay
mind.
for everything there.
Yeah, I always remember he would always like tell us like, hey, for Christmas I want to invite you guys to the club. It has a different name, right?
The club,
Yeah, the club,
club,
yeah, it was like
Rancho.
I'm gonna invite you guys to the club.
Yeah,
And we're like, all right, dude. Like, you know, you try to hype us
yeah,
up, like, hey, for Christmas we'll go for a dinner. You know,
yeah,
we just ended up going to his house and we make chilaquiles.
yeah.
You know, but it was always like the
Yeah,
club,
the
and
club.
yeah,
That's
but
where I
like
met him.
there was money there. Those
Yeah,
guys
there's
with
a lot of money
Ferraris,
there.
and
Yep,
yeah,
I got to meet some cool people there and get some connections and contacts there.
indeed.
But we are nearing towards a podcast. We touched a little bit about your parents, your mom, your dad, your experience in the work and everything. Um, what's something we haven't touched on? I mean, we talked a
I
little bit
guess,
about your wife,
yeah.
where you met her, Ensenada.
Mhm.
Um, you're in the military now.
I am.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
I'm a sergeant in the Marine Corps.
No.
My my stories do not relate to the Marine Corps. Let me just put that out there.
No, yeah,
But
and then you're still active, so you can't share much,
yes,
anyways.
still active. So
Um, but yeah, how did so just to quick little story. Let us know how you got into the military right after racing.